So before we really dive deep into breaking down everything and talking about every aspect of the scale, I really wanted to break down everything like this and to overview it so you kind of understand the whole process and the structure, okay, before we really dive deep into it. Now, of course, this isn't only about scaling to thousands of sales. This can be taken to leads. Can be taken to awareness. This way, when you scale this way, basically what you're doing is you're just scaling in a very, very efficient way. Okay, you're basically scaling in a very efficient way without overlapping and with really squeezing out the audience in the best way possible. So, first of all, this is the scaling structure, as you can see here. And later on, I'm really gonna in the module around the last video or last videos, I'm gonna really break down everything and explain the whole process step by step. So this is more of an overview. Now, basically, the first thing that we always do, okay, and that you probably already do. I don't know how you send your ads out, but we always start with a test ad. Okay, this test ad is basically any website conversion ad, purchase add to cart, lead, view content. It's on automatic bid and it's targeted on mobile and desktop. We basically combine everything. Okay, we send that ad out. We usually don't target anything below 500,000. It's always a minimum of 500,000. Now, of course, we already have a somewhat matured pixel. We're already getting like a minimum of 20 conversions on one of these conversions before we send out this ad. Now, like I said, it's not it's not about getting those conversions on that specific offer. It's overall on the pixel. Of course, if your pixel is specific on a niche. If not, and you have a general store, then this might not work as good. Or you can just do custom conversions. And then this whole thing is basically on a custom conversion. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So we basically start off an ad with, we usually start with, if I'm doing leads, if I need leads, I'll just send out the lead ad. Okay, if I'm doing e-commerce, it's gonna be a purchase and an add to cart. I send a purchase and an add to cart simultaneously. I send them both out. I do it on $20, but you can do it on $10 if you don't have that big of a budget, but not less than $10. And it depends on the price of the product. We went over this as well in the last video where depending on how much your cost per action is, that's how much you want to set the budget. Okay, so take that from there. But anything from $10 to $20 starting is good. And you start it like that, you send it out. We send it out automatic bid, and mobile and desktop, we basically mash everything together. Because what we want to see here is we want to see something working. Once we see something working, then we start breaking everything out. So we start like this. And the reason, by the way, we do add to cart and purchase together is we want to see what works better, and then we scale what works better. Okay, this is how we basically, we do this, by the way, in every different product. Sometimes a product will work better for add to cart, sometimes it will work better for purchase. So we basically send them both out, unless we do lead and then it's only lead. Now, for those of you that are saying, oh, it's overlapping, yada, 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 it's not technically overlapping because it's a huge audience. It's a 500,000 audience and it's a $20 ad. Okay, $20 ads have a CPM of anything from like $3 to $5. So we're reaching probably about like 5,000 people a day, 3,000 to 5,000 people a day on an ad like this. So with a 500,000 audience, it's not really going to overlap. Now, after that, after we let that ad run, basically this runs, right? This ad is running. Now, this ad is running on if we don't have a lookalike audience yet, this is basically sent to just the interest, right? The interest, we start off with the interest. If we already have a lookalike audiences, then we'll send them out, okay? Now these lookalike audiences can be anything. It can be an add to cart, a purchase, a lead, okay? View content as well. So same thing here. We basically want to really test it efficiently. Now, it really depends on your budget, okay? So just, okay, yeah, just wrote it there so we're on the same page. So it depends on your budget, but basically we start off with testing the ad on a interest most of the time, unless we already have lookalike audiences. If we have lookalike audiences, we'll usually test them on a lookalike audience purchase, on an add to cart, on a view content, and basically spreading it out like that. testing the purchase and the add to cart and each and every lookalike audience. Now you don't have to do this like that. This requires quite a lot of testing, quite a lot of testing budget. That's why you can start off by just testing it on one audience that is the strongest for you currently. So if depends on what situation you are currently. If the lookalike audience is working the best for you, then if the lookalike audience add to cart is working the best for you, just test it there. If the lookalike audience purchase is working the best for you, then just test it there. If you don't have lookalike audiences yet, just test it on your main interests. Okay, so you send out the ad to the main interests. Now, we send out a purchase and an add to cart simultaneously firing it up. $10 to $20 budget, automatic bid, mobile and desktop combined. Not separate, combined. We'll let that ad run. Now, if that works, of course, like I said, there's an ad set optimization. You have to let it run for a minimum of 3 days before you can even decide anything. If that works, if we're happy with the result that we're getting, we can start scaling. Okay, now this is where the interesting stuff happens. 2 scenarios will happen, okay, when you start scaling. When you start, not when you start scaling, but not when you start scaling, but when you start seeing results. When you break down the ad set, you'll notice that one of the demographics, one of the placements has a sort of majority of the reach. So either mobile or your desktop will get most of the reach. You're looking for the placement that you're getting the cheapest cost per actions on. So it can be either mobile and it can be either desktop. So you break that up and then you see which one you're getting. You know what, let me do like this, just makes more sense. Okay, explain in a second what I just did. But yeah, so you check the ad set, your test ad, you break it down. Okay, like I said, we're gonna more go deep into it later on, but you break it down and then you see where your cost per purchase is better. Okay, the cost per action, whatever you're optimizing for, where the cost per action is better. Is it better on the mobile or is it better on desktop? Okay, now I'm talking about the cost per action of your eventually what you want to get. So even if you're optimizing for add to cart, I'm talking about how much you're paying per purchase. Okay, if you're optimizing for view content, I'm still talking about how much you're paying per purchase. I don't care how much you're paying for view content. I don't care how much you're paying for add to cart. I want to know how much you're paying for purchase or lead, depending on like what your goal is. So if your goal is purchase, even though your test ad might be optimized for add to cart, that test ad is working, break it down, look at the placement. What's getting cheaper cost per purchases? Is it the mobile or is it the desktop? Okay, one of them is going to give you cheaper cost per purchases. Once you know, okay, let's say it's the mobile, what you're going to do is you're going to duplicate this to a new ad. And on this new ad, this is where the actual scale begins. You need to put a very high budget, okay, according to what we went through, now you need to put a very high budget. I put a minimum of $1,000 on my budget, okay? But basically you need it to be a minimum of times 100 the cost per action of the conversion that you're optimizing for minimum. Okay, remember that. We're gonna have a video on that as well later on in this module, but the budget needs to be a minimum of times 100 your cost per action that you're optimizing for. The cost per action on the test ad, okay? So let me explain, let me break that down because you might already be a little bit confused. So let's say we're optimizing for ads to cart, okay? And the cost per add to cart on the test ad is $4, okay? $5. So the budget on the new ad needs to be a minimum of that cost per action, which is $3-4 times 100. So minimum $300 or $400 needs to be the daily budget. Okay, if the add to cart, if you're optimizing for add to cart, if you're optimizing for purchase, you need to look at the purchase and then multiply that by 100. So if you're paying $8 per purchase on the test ad, on the new ad, you're going to put a minimum of $800 on the budget. Okay, you have to put at least a minimum of times 100. You have to multiply the CPA by 100 of the test ad. No matter what no matter if you're optimizing for add to cart, then it's that you multiply the cost per add to cart by 100 if it's purchased. You multiply the cost per purchase times 100. Okay, and then you set that to a manual bid, and then you set that either to mobile or desktop. Okay, depending, like I said, depending on where your cost per purchase is cheaper, cost per purchase, cost per lead, whatever you want to get. If the mobile is cheaper, you're gonna send it to mobile. You're gonna send it to mobile. Sorry. Now, the manual bid, what you're gonna do, there's two scenarios. You can either start from the bottom. Okay, you can either put $1 on the bid and then slowly increase it. Because what happens, why do we manual bid? Because to basically, how did I call it? I already did a video on it. It's called budget control. We do manual bid to keep the budget in control. Now, a lot of things here aren't gonna make sense until you watch the whole module, but it's okay because I want you to watch this whole module. So you start from the bottom manual bid and you increase it slowly until it starts to spend money. And then you reach a sweet spot. And then once that works, you duplicate that to desktop. Okay? And you do the same thing, bottom to top. You can go from top to bottom as well. It's a bit more riskier, but it's faster. And then once that works, same thing is going to happen with these ads. There's going to be demographics that are going to get neglected. You're going to see that the reach there isn't a lot. So what you want to do is you want to release ads to those neglected demographics. Same thing, $1,000 desktop, manual bid, $1,000 mobile, manual bid, to the to where your ad isn't getting neglected. Okay, and then you keep doing that. You basically keep doing that until every neglected demographic and audience is getting reached. Some of them are not going to work, so that's why you close them. But some of them are, and that's going to make you money. Because you'll notice that you'll notice that the ad will reach like 80% men or 80% female and barely reach women. I'm not talking about like how much you're paying per conversion. I'm talking about actually the ad showing your ad to certain demographics more than other demographics. That can be cities, that can be genders, that can be devices. Okay, you basically just want to get to a point where your ad is being sent to everywhere. Now, you'll notice that, let me explain that again more clearly. You'll notice that when you send out the ad, like here, like in the test ad, right? Mobile and desktop together are combined. You're gonna notice that one of them is getting more reach. That's because Facebook automatically decides to just show your ad to one of those placements automatically, because that's how Facebook works. They optimize on a certain placement and then they'll show your ad mostly to there. That doesn't mean that the other placement can't get you good results as well. That's just how Facebook optimizes. So same thing will happen here, because here you're still mashing up all of things, but you're still combining male, female, countries, and by countries I mean I'm not even talking about like only the United States. Sometimes you combine more. I don't recommend to combine more, but I'm even talking about cities sometimes, like Florida, New York, Wyoming, Delaware, whatever is combined here. And male and females are combined here as well. So eventually, if you break down the ad, you'll see that some genders and some places aren't really getting any reach. So you want to release ads to there. And you want to keep doing that. Now, while you're doing that, you start to build lookalike audiences from the results. So adds to cart, purchase, whatever. And you do the same test ad. Okay, you do the same test ad on all of them. What's important is that you exclude the audiences from before. So if I'm targeting PetSmart in this test ad, the new lookalike audiences, I'm going to exclude PetSmart from them. And I'm going to exclude the lookalike audiences from each other as well, so they don't collide, they don't overlap. And then what you do is you do this whole process on the lookalike audiences. Okay? So lookalike audience 1% will have this $1,000 manual bid mobile, manual bid desktop, and then to neglected audiences. And then I continue on that. And then you do the lookalike audience 2%. You do the same thing. Okay? You break it down. You break that down. And then to the lookalike 3%, 4% until it's not working anymore. And that's basically it. That's how, in an overview, that's really how you scale something from $20 to $20,000, $50,000 a day by using this. Now, some products are scalable more than others. Some products will just make you $30, $50 a day, and that's it. Some products will make you thousands of dollars a day. If you scale like this, you'll notice that the lifespan of the product will be much, much, much more longer, and you'll make so much more money because you're reaching people that you've never thought you're going to reach. With building more lookalike audiences, with touching the neglected audiences, with touching the, with actually splitting out everything, This way you can really touch on every person. And that's basically it for the overview. And later on, okay, in this module, I'm really going to go into breaking down everything so everything really makes sense. And until then, I'm going to basically explain a lot of things that you need to know before we get to there. So I'll see you in the next video.